Hey, all right. It's the pedal pushers.
We should say that at the beginning of the podcast.
We never do we? Yeah. It's the pedal pushers. I'm Matthew.
I'm Zach.
And we make pedals, and we're here to push them.
Yeah, I'm Chill, and you are ?
We did get that comment. I was trying to figure out what he meant. I mean, I am not chill. I'm definitely not a chill person.
You're not chill.
I think I'm
You do chill. You will chill.
But I'm excited because everyone needs to know exactly how I feel about everything.
Yeah, you enjoy the act of chill.
Yes, I do.
But your personality is not chill.
No, I am very amped up.
Yeah.
I care about the things I care about. I do. I really do.
I hope most of us out there.
But I mean, I'm animated about it.
Yes.
That's why I like doing a podcast.
You're very much a personality.
I try. I try. So, Zach.
Yes.
I want to talk about Fender guitars.
What the F?
What the F? Is that what we're going to call it?
I think that's a great
We need clickbaity. What the F is going on at Fender?
And then we're like going like,
what's going on? But I want to talk about them because there's some stuff in the news lately with the new Vintera series.
Yes.
Just came out. We talked about the Mike McCready guitar last episode.
Yes.
Also, that news story about them having $100 million in canceled orders came out, which is crazy. So I just kind of wanted to take stock in Fender.
Yeah.
Really, it was just, I was doing some research. Vintera series was all over the place this week.
Yeah.
And I was checking them out, and I got a little confused about what they offer, where this stuff sits in the line.
What does it all mean?
What does it all mean? And I thought we could talk about it. So the Vintera series, we actually just went and played some.
We did.
And it was fun to check them out. They had some at our local music establishment, Jesus. Corner music.
Corner music.
They all start with a C in Nashville. That's what they
as well.
Yeah,
so Corner Music is one of the places in town that actually has
new guitars.
New guitars and a wide variety of Fenders.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff.
Few other shops have it, but I mean, apart from Guitar Center, a lot of places don't typically have. They'll have, like, Guitar Center has all the cheapy stuff, and then some of the fancy frou-frou stuff.
Yes, this has
they have the
in-between.
All the other stuff. They
Vintera,
have Squire all the way to
Player Series, American Vintage reissue stuff.
Yes.
So we got to check them out, and what did you think?
Well, I think, because we had been talking about it, and I think that both of us were kind of like, how different can they be from, like, the American Vintage?
That is exactly where the hypothesis started, which is that I was surprised that they went so much closer to the American Vintage series with the Vintera series, because what you want is a little bit of a differentiation.
Yeah,
that's a word, right?
That is absolutely a word.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to kind of know, like, okay, I'm going to go here. But it looks like they're kind of just trying to make it like almost the same kind of series, but one's made in Mexico and one's made in the U.S. Does that feel a little bit where they're pushing it? Mostly because of the rosewood. Like, we got rid of that Pau Ferro bullshit.
Oh, my God, that ugly milk chocolate wood. No, it's fine.
No, I hate Pau Ferro. I hate Pau Ferro.
It can be good, but just like anything, there's grades to it.
Well, you can't have vintage correct and have Pau Ferro then.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No. But I think going to Corner reminded me.
Yes.
It reminded me of the fact that these are just the Fender reissue guitars they have always been, just with a new name.
Yes.
And with rosewood again.
Yes.
And nitrocellulose. Although the feeling of the guitars, when we could get into that, they definitely don't feel like the same nitrocellulose. At least I noticed.
The bodies of the Vinteras are nitro?
I think so.
I didn't think so.
They were?
Did they? They must be. They didn't feel exactly the same.
I thought they were. Hold on.
Well, let's find out.
You keep talking.
I'm going to riff here. So I was excited to check them out. I was interested in the thin line Vintera because I'm really into thin line, semi-hollow guitars right now. So I wanted to check those out. They didn't have that one. That was a little bit of a bummer, but I got to play.
We played all the Strats.
We played all the Strats and most of the Tellys.
What Telly did they have?
I played the...
Well, they had a Vintera. They had an early Vintera, the 50s Telly.
Yeah. They didn't have a Vintera II Telly there, though. They didn't. They had the Bass 6.
Did have the Bass 6.
They did have the Bass 6. So we tried the Strats out, and it's funny for me not being like a real big Strat person, and maybe I haven't played nearly as many. I mean, my first guitar was a Strat, but I haven't really played a lot of them. It was harder for me to really feel a ton of differences between all the different ones that we played.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
You trying to find it? Did you find it?
Air just like went into my body in a weird way. I don't think they are. I believe that there were runs of Vinteras with nitro.
If that's important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So like we played they had a 50s Vintera II, and then they had the American Vintage reissue 57.
Yeah.
And you felt like that was one of the biggest difference between the two.
Yeah. I immediately, because the 60s, like, okay, I mean, the American Vintage was significantly better, but it wasn't this gigantic leap above and beyond what the Vintera was. But the 50s one was like, okay, like it was cool. It was an ocean turquoise sort of finish, which is interesting because I don't
remember.
I mean, maybe they did that
like a custom color 59 or something like that.
Maybe, I don't know. There's so few custom colors, but the 57 American Vintage was immediately. It was like, oh, this is more lively. It felt different. The neck shape was a significant V. It just had more personality to it, and it was more resonant. It was a better instrument all around, and you could feel that within 2 seconds of strumming that guitar. Sorry, I'm just trying to find. I know they did a Vintera run. Oh, they did Vintera Road Worn. That's what I'm thinking.
That is what you're thinking.
Sorry.
So my hypothesis was completely destroyed by us going and playing these guitars.
That's why you form a hypothesis.
The hypothesis was I was surprised that they would get them close, and I wanted to see if I could feel a significant difference between the two, because if the specs are the same, or at least or in the ballpark, there isn't as much of a difference. So you're like, well, but you think that there's a decent amount of people that would play both and say, like, yeah, I can tell that the American is better, but not enough for me to pull the trigger on it? Or do you think that that's your mileage may vary kind of thing?
I think it's just finding the right guitar. Okay. I think it's
what do you mean by that?
Like, excuse me. I think it's finding the guitar that speaks to you, regardless of price. Because undoubtedly there are Vintera IIs, whatever, that are going to be just like, that's the one.
Dynamite.
That's the one that got the right piece of wood on the right day with the right thickness of paint, everything about it. It's the right weight. Will that happen as frequently as hopefully it would with an American Vintage? Probably not. But I do think they offer you a different thing than the American Vintage, because I don't want to say it just boils down to the aesthetic, but I feel like that's the biggest part of it. It kind of seems to me now, having gone and played them. Yeah. Like the fact that it's like if you took a normal professional series Strat. Yeah. And typically those will have like the satiny neck and a little different finish. Yeah. If you did the same appointments on that guitar and handed it to someone, they probably couldn't tell much of a difference between the necks and the pickup. I mean, maybe the pickups are different. We did not plug them in. We just acoustically played them. Yes. Which I think is the fairest test in something like this. Agreed. So, but yeah, it's interesting how, like, on paper, the lines feel so blurred. Yes. But then in actuality, it's just more confusing because, like, they look very close. You have to stare like at the sticker on it to figure out what it is. Like you can't look at it necessarily and know right away. The telltale is on the 60s ones, they have clay dots. And you can immediately, like, bright white, like liquid paper white inlaid dots on the Vintera series, and then the American Vintage is like a little brown right in the middle of the frets. I mean, like you can tell that. Yeah. But apart from that, if like you were just looking at the bodies, there's some plastics are slightly different, but the plastics were, I think, a little bit more like aged looking on the on the American Vintage. They had like a better kind of like tint to the, and that, you know, it's just, and that could be just of that whatever they're trying to replicate. And that is another thing, is that the American Vintages are going for a specific year. Yeah. Where you're trying to like accompany, like, kind of stretch it
across a lot of years, where there's a difference between a 61 Strat and a 63 Strat.
Yeah.
But the Vintera is a 60s Strat.
Yeah, it's just a general 60s.
Yeah. So did you feel like it was cleared up for you a little bit as far as the way the lineup works? And, you know, I think it's a really interesting thing, though, when you're walking into a store like that.
Yeah.
And you've got all of these guitars, and they're all on the wall. And some of them are made in Mexico, and some are made in America. Mm-hmm. And there are little details, but if you kind of don't understand any of that stuff, like, how are you picking out a guitar?
If they didn't have the little sticker on the pick guard,
like, how are you?
You'd be like, what is it?
Why is this one $1,200 and why is this one $2,300?
Right. Or why is this one $800 or whatever?
Like, how would you even know?
I don't think you, unless you were like us, and you were probably like me, where you'd go and get the Fender catalog from the local guitar store and you just looked at it all the time.
I mean, that's what I did today before we recorded this, and I was trying to figure it out. And I'm not a turbo nerd, so I didn't notice the clay dots right away. But now you mention it, I'm like, I noticed that stuff. Obviously, once you say stuff, and but I think we're getting down to is it confusing for a modern player, that's not somebody that's like obsessed with all this stuff, to walk into a store and sort of understand what's happening? I think
it's totally confusing. I think
do you think most brands are like that, or do you think this is a Fender problem?
I think it's a Fender problem. I think it has been a Fender problem for a long time. I think it was a Gibson problem.
Okay.
Until the new guard came in and they kind of culled the herd, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think that Gibson has really done a good job in creating more of a delineation between, because it's basically three things. Just like Fender, there's Epiphone, Gibson Standard, and then Gibson Custom. And Fender has so many models between their three, Squire and Fender. Well, no, they have four.
Yes,
Squire, the Standard line, American line, and then the Custom shop.
Yeah.
I can't. Can you move your pinky without moving your ring finger? My wife can. She can just move her pinky finger without moving her ring, and I'm like, you would be such a good shredder. Like you could just.
I can't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, no, I cannot. But, it is just, they have so many different guitars.
Yeah,
and maybe that could segue into what massive amount of a headache it would be to have $100 million worth of orders be canceled, and you have all this stuff that is in queue because people were going to buy it.
Yeah, because at the height of the pandemic, guitar stores were going crazy. Everybody was buying a ton of stuff.
It was Black Friday every day, and
it was terrific. Everyone was having a great time, and then once people got back to work and could go on vacations again, all the stuff we've all talked about. Are you all right over there?
I had to drop my lid.
Oh, drop my lid. I don't know.
Like, how can you're the only person I know that could say, drop my lid.
I tried to make it salacious, and I feel like I did. But once all that happened, and then the stores realized that they had too many guitars coming, and they said, Fender, fuck off with all this stuff. Like, obviously they got to slow things down, and I feel like maybe with the Vintera series is them sort of acquiescing a little bit and saying, we got to come out with something that's pretty hard, something hard in a cool way. You know what I mean?
Hard's always cool.
Something that's tight, and where it's like it's something that perks my interest. Where I'm going, I might want to get one of these.
I don't even want a Fender guitar, and every time they launch like a new product video series, I'm like, oh man, did you see that new Telecaster, man?
I mean, but that's
Fiesta
good
Red, man.
That's good marketing, and but of course you want a Fender.
Yeah, well, I do until I play them, and I'm like, I don't really want this.
Well, because you sound better with the buggies.
I sound better
with the buggies,
man.
You do, but they do a good job of the marketing, and I wanted to try a thin line today. Unfortunately, they didn't have one. But the point is that with all that stuff, couldn't even imagine how the logistics work when you've got all those orders and you've started production on all that stuff. And maybe we're seeing some of that stuff with the Mike McCready guitar and trying to divert, because they might have a lot of stuff already made, and they're like, well, we gotta use.
Hey, beat up all those Vinteras,
or we've got Rosewood on all these guitars, and we need to use them for something.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe those were all American-made necks that they shipped down there.
Maybe they were Japanese necks.
Who knows, man?
Because the Rosewood It was nice. It was very dark.
It was. Need that dark rosewood.
You got to have the dark rosewood.
Shout out to Devin Booth over there.
Can I get dark rosewood?
Poor Devin, when I was working over at the Novo factory, everybody was like, I mean, the percentage of people that were like, can I have dark rosewood was so high. So we eventually just told them just get ebony because, you know, you never know. But sometimes we get stuff in and we had to send it back because it was so like purple. That it was like, we know the customers are going to complain about this because people are obsessed over
what you do?
Rosewood. What?
You stain it.
Oh, my God. It sounds like a signature.
Know.
Make it a signature. Yeah, you do that. But, like, I like an interesting rosewood fretboard, you know, but Palfaro sucks. Come on, it sucks.
I mean, like, so.
I don't care that Stevie Ray had Palfaro.
Well, it's not, okay. It's not the fact that there were some Stevie's guitars that had, because they have some at Carter that have Brazilian boards.
Okay.
I don't know. I think they're like from '93 or whenever that guitar came out.
That's cool.
It is very cool.
Yeah.
But there have been a ton of Palfaro Stevie Ray Vaughan guitars that you would look at it and you would never know
that it's
Palfaro. And I think we're getting into that era. Or, well, maybe we're coming out of that era where everyone was like freaking out about rosewood. You saw Gibson going to baked maple and having that debacle on their fretboards, and then Fender switching to that, and most import guitars now are either Palfaro or Indian Laurel, which is even more hit or miss. And for me, it's not even as much about the color. Like I can forgive the color. I think the thing that is kind of off-putting to me is, and it's so hard to like even express to somebody until you see it, and you probably know, is the grain and like the pores of the wood.
Yes.
So like Indian Laurel and Palfaro sometimes can be extremely porous, and you can really see that in the wood itself. Whereas like tight rosewood, that Firebird back there behind Matthew's head that's Brazilian, but that 60 standard in sparkling burgundy that
looks
Gibson
great.
Very kindly lent me, and this honey amber here, that has rosewood that's a really tight grain, and so I think it's more forgiving if there is any sort of streaking or anything in it, because it seems more contiguous, like one piece of wood, whereas those other things, they look cheap because they look almost cracked, but that's just the wood.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. Palfaro in a lot of ways just screams cheap because of the guitars it's being put on, too.
And I think it's just because that's just the species, or that whatever Palfaro they're using, because there has to be more than one grade of it.
Yeah.
Is just like, you know, this is what makes sense for this budget on this instrument.
Yeah.
But I don't even know what we're talking about. But yeah, the rosewood thing, switching to that really makes such a huge difference aesthetically.
I like that reckless speculation that those are all American necks that they repurposed.
I mean, Fender has done that before. They have they have assembled things, because there was the California series. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, where it was like
that pause meant no, I don't. But I'm just saying.
I'm pretty sure it was either American or
I remember that.
Mexican-made parts assembled in California. I think it was.
Were the Highway 1 the Highway 1 guitars like that?
I think they were all American-made.
They're all American-made?
But they were just more like thin finish, budget-friendly, which those were amazing guitars.
I always thought those were cool.
But they have done that in the past. I mean, they
I mean, reckless speculation aside, you know, I think I'm right. Because they got to repurpose $100 million worth of inventory. It's like, send it down to Mexico and give the people what they want, rosewood boards.
Well, I mean,
on vintage reissues. That's cool.
We've talked about this. It's like, you know, even though it was $100 million worth of orders canceled, it doesn't necessarily equate to $100 million worth of product sitting on a shelf.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're spending less than
dollars on parts. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But they got to figure out a way to move forward. I'm sure they're doing, I mean, I've seen lots of nice things about these guitars, and you know, I think if they're a hit, I mean, it's an interesting move to keep pushing up the price of import guitars. I mean, we know that all the Korean stuff, if you've looked at LTD guitars like we have, and you look at, you know, a lot of brands, Revolta, which I used to work with, it's like Korean-made stuff. The prices are settling into that $1,200 to $1,700 range.
The Camet I got they're over They're around $1,000, I think.
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
602.
And
KH.
so it's an interesting thing to see as the prices of the top tier American-made stuff keeps going up. You know, Gibson, PRS, Sir, all that stuff is creeping up and up and up, and then the real high-end stuff is bonkers, like Collings and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So you just keep seeing that. What I'm interested in, and that's part of the reason I wanted to try those American vintage reissues, is like where do those sort of, I know I say mid-price now, and people are like, that's a lot of money for a guitar.
I know, but it
is like, where do those guitars see fit? If they make period correct stuff in Mexico, and for a lot of people to say like, hey, that's a really good price for something that's basically what I want. Like, is that going to eat into it? And do you see that trouble for like the mid-priced American stuff?
You know, honestly, I did more so before we went and played them.
Yeah.
Because it felt the American vintage stuff, and I think Fender does a really good job, as good a job as anybody, as capturing what is true to what made the original instruments that they are making these replicas of, like, correct.
Yeah.
I feel like that 57 Strat seemed really right. The 61 Strat seems really correct. Like, they don't just look right, they feel right. Whereas the Vintera stuff, I think it's a misnomer for anyone to assume that a Vintera instrument is like period accurate in anything other than appearance or fretboard,
like fretboard radius
alone.
Yeah.
I think those are the only two things that really really have any sort of connection. Because the fact that I sincerely thought that they were nitrocellulose, the fact that they're poly too. It's like, it's not obvious, I don't think, in the marketing, or not that they would want to use that as a selling point, like a polyurethane finish. They're not going to say that. But before we went and played them, and I think this will probably be a lot of people's experience, they're going to think, why would I spend that extra money on this other one? I'm going to just get this because it's going to be just as good. And not that they were bad guitars, but there was a definite difference.
Yeah, when I played the Telecasters, because I'm not a Super Strat guy or a Strat guy. I realized when I came out of my mouth that Super Strat was a category of guitar.
It is.
When I'm more comfortable with Telecasters, and I played they didn't have a 2 there, but I played a 1.
Yeah.
And it had a maple neck. And then I picked up a 63 AVII.
And you played.
And I played the Jason Isbell, and I thought that the American-made one was superior. Instantly. It was superior. And I was expecting it to be close, and so I would be like, I would be fine, but I liked it a lot more.
They're like, from a distance, they're like a 10-foot guitar. You see it, and you're like, oh, it looks pretty good. And you get up close, in comparison to something like an American vintage or something, the little details that should pop out and be like really right lose their fidelity. And those are the things that really pull me out of it and make me question why I should. And part of that is like, who cares? If it plays well and it sounds good, who gives a shit? Like,
that's what we've always
if the
said,
relicking is like, oh, that's a little weird and that looks kind of crappy or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like,
well, let's talk about this in a I want to expand on a point you made a little bit earlier, which is like, if you're completely oblivious to this, which good for you, because we're just, as I call us, turbo nerds about this stuff. If you just walked into corner and you wanted a good Strat and you just played everything, you could walk away with the Vintera because they have a really good example there.
Yeah. And
it sounded good. And so that's where it starts getting interesting to me, is the idea of, you know, in that consistency. And the way I framed it to you earlier when we were talking about it before we recorded the show was, if somebody walked into a guitar store and had the money to spend on a nice American-made Fender guitar and they played them all, would they walk out with a Vintera? If like all things were equal and they said like, are they going to just spend the money and buy? Because you know, in your head, you know, from what you experienced today, that there was a far superior guitar.
Yeah.
And if you had the money, obviously, to spend, of course, you're going to end up with that one.
Well,
but there isn't part of people where it says like, well, this is pretty good and I can save $1,000. Like, I mean, isn't that worth something to people?
Oh, absolutely. And there's the whole part of the whole community and the industry's built on upgrading guitars, and turning something into truly yours, which is really fun. And it's so funny of all the guitars because we played more than just the Fenders.
Yeah,
my favorite guitar that I played today was a sub $500 Epiphone.
Yeah, that was nice.
That made me go, oh,
yeah.
But yeah, if your intent is to go in there and say, I'm buying a Stratocaster, and this is the one that I want, and I have this amount of money.
Yeah, like if you walked in with the cash to buy the 57 American Vintage reissue.
Then I don't know. I feel like for me, it really comes down to, because obviously I'm picky and I'm a nerd and all those things. Like, I get in my head about all this stuff.
Of course.
Obviously, I mean, we all do.
We do a podcast because we think about this stuff too much. That's the point. That's the point.
I think one of the things that I would walk away from that experience is that I just need to spend more time trying everything. Because of all the guitars we played that were Fender today, the one I liked the most was that Strat Ultra.
Okay, and maybe you wouldn't have considered it because you're thinking, well, of course I need something with vintage spec.
Right, yeah, I need a 6-point trem, and like from the outside, that guitar looked like a John Mayer Strat. It did 3-tone sunburst, tort guard, rosewood neck. It looked great, but then it had a 2-point trem. And the wiggle stick was on, and it was working.
Yeah,
and it worked well, and it had the skinny little contoured heel, so you could be, get way up there.
I ain't going up there, bro.
Yeah, no,
there's no reason for me to go up there.
Clean up that dusty end.
Whoa, it's not gonna happen.
Keep it dusty.
So that's another. Write that down. There's another. But that's another point, which is like how often, and we've probably talked about this ad nauseum, and I'll bring it up again, where you get fixated on something that you want, and like, but what would you get if you actually? Because we're all buying stuff online, we're buying stuff on Reverb, we're like seeing all the deals on. You can buy it on Fender.com. You're seeing all this stuff.
Sweetwater,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
nice plug,
man.
Yeah,
looking real good right now.
Oh man, and point is that like. But, what would you actually buy if you walked into the store and you had, again, if you had $5,000, let's say, and you walk into a store and you're thinking, well, I have enough money for a custom shop Stratocaster. Like, what are you actually going to end up with?
For a long time, I would have sorted high to low. Just like, let's see what the budget can do. With tax and shipping, how much can we spend?
Yeah, of course.
But as I've gotten... I don't think I'm jaded. I think I'm just like I'm just chilling out. I'm just chilling the fuck out.
I am never chilling.
But like I think you get out of your own head and your own decision making, and I think that because I have been on a bit of a 335 hunt.
I'm waiting for you to pull a trigger, dog.
And I've played all these Gibsons. Yep. I've played all the different permutations of heritage and etc. But the guitars I keep gravitating towards are the Epiphones.
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to boast. I could buy whatever I want. I am secure in my finances. I have saved. I can do what I want to do. If I
do what I want,
I choose to do whatever I want. But I don't want to do it.
You don't want to buy the Epiphone?
No, I don't want to buy a Gibson Custom or a Murphy Lab.
Yeah.
Even though if I wanted to, I could just, crawl and plead on my knees to my wife and say, I really want to do it.
I think it's important for you to get the guitar because we needed a 335 to test pedals. Right?
Well, see, we could buy it on the company card if we're doing that.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is that those guitars, while as enticing and as excellent as they are or could be, the ones that I've played that have excited me most have either been the tippy top Gibson Murphy Lab guitars, or just the middle of the road Epiphones are like, I think they're $500, maybe $600.
Yeah.
Like I play those and I'm like, this thing rules, and I don't have to ever worry about it. I don't know. And so I feel like it's taken me a long time
to get there,
to get to that point. But I feel like most people, you just have to go into any decision making like this with a really open mind.
Yeah.
It's like I wanted you to get the Mark 7.
You did.
Because I said, on paper, this is you. It does everything you want. And then you tried it and went, I'm not getting that. I'm getting a California Tweed.
And I love it. I'm so happy. I would have never thought that that's what I would have ended up with.
See?
But you had to go play everything.
Open minds and open hearts.
So, that being said, like, ultimately people are buying what's going to make them happy. Right.
Well, okay.
And so there has to be a little bit of.
I don't know if people do.
Whoa, wait a sec. No, because you're buying what's going to make you happy.
You buy what you think is going to make you happy.
Well, yeah, no shit.
But okay, well,
but it might not, and that's why you sell it.
Right.
Because it didn't do nothing for you. It didn't fill a deep, festering hole in your heart.
And I think what that really goes to show is the only thing you should be impulsive about buying
is pedals. Yeah, let's get it on.
I mean, but seriously,
MythosPedals.com.
Like, I mean, you can, like, it's an easier. That's fine to, like, you're not gonna feel like too guilty about
just buying pedals.
Buy some pedals.
No, you absolutely should just
buy as many pedals.
As many pedals as you possibly.
Menopause as you can.
As many pedals. Yes, I did. I said menopause. No, you have to buy as many pedals as you can. Right. But what I'm saying is that, like, if you got it in your head, the example, of course, is that we're talking about something that's close.
And your hand is moving.
We're talking about the Vintera and the American Vintage, and they're close. They're close in spec. They're close in price. Let's talk about, like, what about a PRS, an S2, and a core model?
Our favorite.
The prices are vastly different, and they look a lot different, and the specs are different.
Yes.
So, well, I don't know necessarily if you're going to choose between the two guitars.
The specs,
right?
Like the
pickups are
different. I mean, they're
electronics
they're import
electronics.
American made guitars, still nitro,
different carve.
Different carve, but like the neck's the same, scale length the same.
Would you choose between the two? That's really what I'm getting at is like, what brands have models that are close in, spec, in, woods, whatever, but there's a price difference and and you would choose between the two.
Yeah. Well,
Gibson. Would anybody would anybody be looking at and see a Gibson USA Les Paul standard right next to a R9 and choose between the two? They're not choosing between the two. Am I wrong?
I mean, you're I don't know, unless that Gibson model is just, or the standard model is just so
kicking,
so dynamite.
Like it's a good example.
Yeah,
like maybe from our friends at Wildwood who get their exclusives with their pickups and tops,
and they spec everything out.
Yeah.
WildwoodGuitars.com.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
They're awesome.
Every time I ever have to talk to them, sidebar, usually they'll call me and they're super nice, or the owner Steve will call me and we'll talk, and I'm like, that's like, who does that? That level of connection with their brands. Granted, like Wildwood doesn't have, they're not Sweetwater. They don't have this multitude of but
they got a lot of inventory.
They do, and they really care. And so
what I'm getting at is like Wildwood. Is you just, when we're looking at these choices that you're making,
apples to apples,
there is a little bit of that, right? Where you're like, once you're in a price range and you're used to a certain thing, I just feel like that you're not going to be choosing between those kind of things. And what I thought was interesting about this new Vintera is I felt like it blurred the lines enough to where, like, before I wouldn't think that because they weren't really trying to spec them close. And this time I was like, I think this is closer than I'm comfortable with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
what other brands, like, and it's a brand problem with the big guys because they've got a lot of SKUs and a lot of imports and a lot of different stuff that they're trying to do. And it's an interesting conundrum.
I think, Fender is the greatest offender.
Fender is the greatest offender. Write that down. Put it on
video.
Yeah. That is.
Because they just have so many SKUs and it's confusing. And I think that, like, the difference between, like, ESP and LTD, for example, I have the Kirk Hammett 602, or you can get a KH2, which is, well, it's not exactly the same.
No.
But they're both set neck guitars.
Yes. They don't look different.
They don't look different.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, the Japanese ones do have sometimes come in like a sparkle flake finish, which you can't really get.
Yeah,
but like black, if both are just black,
yes,
you know, they are for the most part on paper the same guitar. But having played the two,
yeah,
the Japanese ones are just so above and beyond.
Yes.
But see, that's the thing about some of these other brands. Like I feel like LTD, ESP, they really go the extra mile to make sure that no matter what you get, that guitar is going to be really good. Because the guitar that I got from Guitars to Be Played is so great.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with it. You can't fault it as far as the fit, the finish. Like mine actually was a B stock because it had a little like a what's the things in wood? A knot.
Yeah.
There was a knot and the finish had sunk. But who cares? But like the things that matter, like the frets and like the
the things the place.
It was really incredible. But
so if
that's confusing, like from the outside.
Because you're like, why would I spend $5,000 on a guitar versus $1,000 on a guitar?
Right.
Like, how much better can it actually be?
Yeah, but I mean, like the thing that we're throwing away with all this is the prestige.
Yes,
it's the bragging rights,
yes.
even for yourself, and that the gift of giving something to yourself.
Yes,
is so incredibly important. As well. I mean, you should be proud of everything you have.
And I will say this, is that like that is sort of part of what I'm getting at here. And when I was bringing up the idea of like, well, you're doing this to make yourself happy. And part of that is like, you know, obsessing over something and understanding how is that? Is that good?
It's so weird. It's the Y3000.
I don't even know what's going on here. I don't even know if I have a point. No, I do. You know, last year when I bought my PRS special, part of the reason that I did it was that my wife was pregnant, and I knew there would be no money no more.
No more money.
No more unless I sold some stuff. And she said, you know, you haven't bought yourself anything. You know, the last time that I bought myself a brand new guitar from a store was never.
Ever?
I bought a Dean V like in like 2006.
Hell yeah! Where's that?
I traded it for a Catlin Red Echo Rec.
Lame.
Which I sold last week. On
Get one of those
Reverb.
lawsuit Vs, those pre-lawsuit Vs.
Oh my gosh! But I'd never really done it.
Oh, you heard about that?
Can I finish my point
Sorry,
just for a second?
I got really excited.
I'm like, remember that. I just want to, let me get this out here because everyone must listen to what I have to say because I have a microphone in my hand.
Right.
No, it was important for me to buy something.
Yeah.
That was a little bit in my head, slightly reckless, because like I've just been so cheap for so long when it comes to my gear.
Yeah,
and I work in the industry, and I gotta say, you work in the industry, you get good deals.
Yeah,
everywhere, and I'm like, you know, I just want to buy a guitar.
Sometimes working in the industry too and getting those deals makes you not like you won't buy something because you can't get the deal.
Isn't that funny?
And this is like, I mean, this is inside baseball.
First world problems, baby.
Oh yeah, and absolutely, it's bullshit. Like, it's so sad you get a discount, but yeah, it's almost like a kick in the teeth. And you're like, hey, you know, you reach out to a company, can I grab one of these? You know, I'll pay for it. And they're like, yeah, full price. You're like, I don't want it.
But when I was looking at a PRS and I was thinking about getting one, I was looking at like the CE semi hollow.
Yeah,
because the price seemed reasonable.
Great guitars.
And I'm sure that they're really good, but then I was like, why am I not going full bore?
Yeah. Well, I was egging you on.
Yes, you were, and my dad did a great job of that, and my lovely wife egging me on. But there is part of that, which is like, it's not that you're going to get a worse guitar if you spend more money. Hopefully. Yeah. Holy shit, wow. I hope so.
Depends on who you buy it from.
Okay. Can we say that let's hope so that the percentage is high if I'm going to buy the more expensive version of the guitar that it's hopefully better?
Right. Yeah.
If it's a reputable brand. So if you can afford it, like why wouldn't you just do that?
Right, yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting at with a lot of this.
Turned into a bougie cast.
I know. These
guys.
And I mean that with the American Vintage, it's sort of like, because you could go like, well, I could get the Squire, and I can put a Mastery Bridge on it, and I could put Lawler, right. And then eventually you're like, well, you just spent $1,000 on a guitar. That's sort of my you know, I'm always going to be advocating for spending as much money as possible on expensive guitars because I really feel the difference. I you know, obviously worked for Novo for 6 years, and I understand the massaging and the hard work that those guys and girls like do to get those guitars. What is that face for? You're a weirdo. But then for part of the example is that after playing these Fenders today, I walked over and picked up a Music Man, and it crushed everything I had touched.
Yeah.
Crushed everything that I had touched.
Sorry, Fender.
And sorry, Fender. But it was just, they were awesome.
Those Cutlass.
They were awesome.
And Starling and stuff. Like, they're really good.
They were all USA stuff.
Yeah.
That, you know. And
but how much are those? Like, I mean,
$25.99.
Okay, so they're right up there with the American.
The Sabre
Vintage.
was like $34.99 that I bought.
And that one has like a flamey top.
So here's my suggestion.
Yeah, what can we do?
I think Fender needs to make more expensive guitars in the U.S. that aren't custom shop.
Yeah. See, we thought the same thing.
Same idea? Are you? Man, it's getting hot in here.
It is
getting a little punchy there, brother.
This little.
You got some sweat running up the crack, or what?
No. It's all soaking into the sweater. I thought that'd be a good.
God.
I thought it'd be a good idea to wear this sweater that you can get on mythospedals.com today.
It looks really good, even though it's hot as fuck in here.
It's not that bad.
It's toasty. All right. What do you think about that suggestion? That
they
Fender needs
more
to make
expensive,
nicer guitars, USA. Like pushing it up there with like what Sir, like the Sir, or like if you got like an Idris Novo, it's $33.99. $35.99 I think is like the classic S Sir. Like push it up there a little bit.
But where does custom shop go?
Custom shop's already $5,000.
Is that where it starts?
Yes.
Man, guitars are expensive.
I know, and people are yelling through their TV or their computer or their
yelling at their steering
their
wheel.
Garmin, whatever they're watching this on.
Their Garmin?
Their Garmin. Can you watch stuff on your Garmin?
I'm watching my podcast.
No, like the Garmin, like map,
like a
map.
GPS.
Yeah, it's got a
people
screen.
don't have those anymore. Only old people, and they don't listen to podcasts.
Screen. Point being that I'm sorry, I'm advocating. I just think that they should push it up there a little bit, make it like refine it a little bit more.
I think
push it even harder, make it even better.
Well,
but they make so many guitars. I know that's hard.
I mean,
they
problem.
Make so many guitars. I know that's hard, and that's why custom shop, smaller batches.
Yeah,
they can be better. But that's kind of what I took away as I walked over and I played the Music Bands. I'm like, well, this kicks everything.
Well, but here's the thing. It is not trying to be a period correct vintage guitar.
Oh,
so of course, it's like a much It like
modern playability, dog.
I mean, Leo Fender, Music Man,
same dude, bro.
It's all been an evolution of those initial ideas, and that's not what Fender, at least with these guitars, are doing. And that's
you like the
Ultra,
the best,
which is like the most rolled edges and the fret ends.
Are we just saying that vintage spec guitars suck?
Kind of. I mean, and that's
a better lead for the show.
Yeah,
we should have thought of that not at the end of the podcast, but at the beginning.
Butts.
And you're stupid for liking them.
No,
I'm kidding.
But it's
getting real weird.
It's getting hot and late. It's interesting because it's like Vintera and the American Vintage II, apples to apples. Maybe Granny Smith and Fuji or something.
Starving dog.
No, I can't. But comparing a Fender, anything vintage spec,
it's
apples to oranges.
Apples to oranges.
It's chalk and cheese, as that pedal show would say.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yes, I get what you're saying.
But
yeah.
But the feeling you get when you pick up that Music Man, that like, oh yeah, you should have that with everything. And especially if it's at that.
Well, and we discussed this earlier because like the Silver Sky has vintage specs on the radius.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel, weird.
No.
They feel great. But is it just set up in a certain way that makes it work and it's just
I don't think radius matters all that much.
Really?
I mean, I think it matters, but I think if your guitar is set up well, the difference that you'll notice between a 9 1/4 or a 7 1/4 and 9 1/2 is, I mean, it's there and it's visible if you sight down the neck, but I don't know, if it's set up well, it never stopped any of our heroes playing all that stuff.
Oh no, I get it. So like, yeah, I mean, we're taking a piss a little bit about saying a vintage guitar's, you know,
but
because
I mean,
all those guys
guitars,
played vintage guitars.
They are riddled with warts. You know, they are
riddle me this, Leo Fender.
They are lepers, and
they fixed all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the thing that we have to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that you can't make a vintage style guitar and it can just be alive and resonant and magical, because people do and Fender does.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting thing to compare it to something other than that. I mean, I think the biggest thing that Fender could do overall is stop introducing more models. And
like here's a new series and it's the blankety blank.
Because it felt so much more simple.
Yeah.
Even when like you and I were kind of starting out playing guitar. Squier there was like the Affinity, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if it was out then. The standard line, that was it with Squier.
Yeah.
I don't even think there was anything nicer than that.
Mm-hmm.
There was the standard Mexican-made Fenders.
Midnight Blue, baby, my first guitar.
Oh god, we should do a whole episode on our favorite guitar colors, and we can argue about which one.
I don't like Midnight Blue. I don't like the color. I just ordered the guitar and I was like,
fine.
why is this so purple? It did not look that purple in the catalog.
Yeah. There was this Midnight Wine too, which was
I remember that
very
too.
purple.
Yeah.
Drink
some more Coke.
No, I'll have some water.
Yeah.
But okay, so there was that. There was like the Power series existed. I think you remember those. They had like the.
When did they introduce like the S1 switching stuff?
That was later.
But
all that to say, there was the standard, there was artist, there was reissue.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the artist you have like the Robert Cray and things like that, and then you had the Americans, and there was for the longest time there was just American standards.
Yep.
And then reissue stuff. I don't even think there was anything other than that for a long time.
It is slightly confusing, and I think that Gibson's done a good job of paring it down.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about it from my bougie ass self over here. And you're right. Like my dad had all his Music Man guitars. And I started working at Music Man in 99 or 2000. And then I got a PRS in 2003. Yeah. And then like that's all I really played. I got a Warmoth Telly that's pretty nice that I'm selling. We'll
get to that.
We'll get to that. And then I started playing Novos. So I kind of think I'm used to just expensive guitars. And like playing like a Fender guitar that has vintage specs. It's just there's something about it that just doesn't work for what I'm trying to do.
Right, yeah. No,
not that I'm such a good player that I need something that works, but
I need this Lucas Springer.
But if that's the kind of stuff that if you've been playing,
a little flappy,
you're probably used to. That's why I was like, hey, like you probably tell a little bit better that the differences between these Strats than I have because you got a little more experience working at the stores and playing. You played, some actual vintage ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I played a 57 Strat and a 63 Strat at Carter's once.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think most vintage Fenders are fine. Like, I don't think there's enough to really write home about with most of them. Because, like, Fender was, and probably still is, one of the biggest manufacturers of electric instruments ever. And in the heyday of electric guitar,
they were making a lot of guitars.
Yeah. It was a mass production of guitars and amps.
Yeah.
There is a lot of those things. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Gibson was just trailing in comparison. I think in 1959 they made I think they made 1,500 Les Pauls in 1959. 1,500?
That's it.
I mean, they probably, who knows how many guitars that Fender made a month.
Yeah, a lot more.
And that's, and they had way more electric, like solid body models. I mean, they were like the Fender Stratocaster, Telecaster, and the bass, the P bass, and then the jazz bass. Like the most popular instruments in the world.
Yeah.
So like... Not all. It's so.
Those all can't be winners.
No, and most of them.
And a lot of them have Floyd Roses on them now.
Yeah, they do. But most of the ones I played were like, oh, it's good, it's cool. It's like it has a vibe and a personality because of what it is, not because it's necessarily this amazing instrument that is so much above and beyond
what they can make today.
And I've argued for years
Yeah.
that what the Fender Custom Shop, Gibson Custom Shop, and all these guys that are who are making the Gretsch Custom Shop, all the guys that are making these copies of these vintage instruments, they are making guitars that are made better than what they ever made.
Yeah.
They're not 60 years old.
There you go.
So
wrap it up.
I'll take it.
Give me two sentences on Fender. Go. What do you think? Good, bad, ugly. You feel like
2 sentences?
Yeah, give me 2 sentences.
Man.
1 sentence. Give me 3 words. Just grunt something.
Make less stuff.
Make less stuff.
There you go.
There you go. I say make more expensive USA non-custom shop. That's what I think. That is an unpopular opinion.
Tickled my tongue, the sound I made just a minute ago.
That's what I think they should do. Let's go.
Okay. Is that it?
No, we got to talk about what we're buying and what we're selling. All right. You bought some stuff. Show off what you bought some
Look
stuff.
at what I bought.
Everyone's tuned out. It's fine.
I know by this point. So my birthday is in a couple weeks, and anytime it's building up to my birthday, then I get a little like,
chippy.
I want to buy something
for
myself.
That's my birthday
So
month.
I bought, because I love tube screamers, I bought a mini tube screamer.
That looks good. Show that thing off. Man,
Gotta block our faces.
my forehead is so shiny. Good God.
And then, because I want to round out the collection, I also got this. But look at this turbo tube screamer. It has faded into
that color looks great.
A turquoise.
I like the color. I think it's cool.
I hate it.
It's like two-tone.
It's so funny because there's not a ding on. Well, there's a ding.
You're a ding. I'm sorry.
It's in really good shape, but it's just sat. It probably sat in the store display, and someone's like, "Tube screamer, 4 knobs." But this is cool because I don't know if it even.
What does the other knob do?
So this goes between classic tube screamer.
Yep.
To plus mode, hot mode, and a turbo mode. It changes like the clipping and the bass cap.
Oh, cool.
So it makes it sound fuller, and so it's a really. I mean, if you had to have just one tube screamer,
why would you do that to yourself? You should have more than one tube screamer.
Well, I don't know if you had to have one.
Yeah.
Let's buy a Mjolnir instead.
There you go. It's not even close to the same thing.
I know.
But
this is cooler. No, I don't know. I love tube screamers. I have.
I know you've got
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, the Vibinez. Hold on. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Rhett has another 2
that are yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There you go.
And then I have a bunch of clones and stuff.
But
and then I'm still selling the Firebird behind Matthew there. I just got to get it. I just want to get it gone. I need. There's too many things in life that I need that aren't guitars, which I know that's.
Come on.
That's kind of polar opposite of what we just talked about. All
guitars, more guitars.
Strandberg.
Do it. All right.
What about you?
I sold a bunch of stuff.
You did.
Yeah.
I'm
cleaned out, bro.
Your pockets are full.
I've got lots of cash, which is great because stop it. But I've got an expensive purchase coming.
Yeah, you do.
That we'll talk about later on when it shows up here.
An episode in and of itself.
It will be. And then I'm still selling my Carmen, my amp. Since I got the Mesa, I don't need that bad boy anymore. It's on reverb. And then I'm selling my Warmoth Telly. It's
get it out of here.
It's a slab board style, but it's got like a 6-saddle bridge, little modern appointments, kind of vintage feel.
Jeff set it up.
Modern appointments, vintage feel.
That's it. Jeff set it up. Plays well.
It's probably all in like $1,200 on it. So it's a nice one. I just I play my F1 Novo F1 most of the time, so I hadn't broken that thing out in a long time, and I think it should go to a good home.
Come get it.
I'll post about it on the Instagrams too.
We'll make Matthew sign it.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah, on the front of the headstock.
I'm not signing it right under the bridge. You'd be
sign it on the side of the headstock, like around.
Like Nash?
Yeah, like that.
Man, I fucking hate that. I do. Sorry if the Nash team is listening. I hate it.
Yeah,
I hate it. It's bad. It's not good. I've played some cool Nashes too.
All right. Our plug of the
Silence is deafening.
week. Our plug of the week because
we gotta sell something. Gotta sell something.
The next video
Well, I gotta go.
on the tube
I'm good.
is going to be Chupacabra. So Chupacabra, Billy Gibbons in a box. Way more than that. You can play any style of music with it.
The video that you have done is the most Billy thing I've ever heard from you, and I loved it.
It's pretty. There's a lot of squealies.
Squealy dealies.
Squealy dealies.
You were worried you just lifted a whole riff from Billy.
I kind of did.
Did you?
It's kind of the riff from Poke Chop Sandwich, which is from the album Triple X, which is like Poke Chop Sandwich. It's an interesting album. Everything of ZZ Top of that era.
Yeah.
That's an episode.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, let's talk about when things get weird.
I love it when it gets weird.
Because it's weird.
Yeah. I'm gonna listen to that on my drive home.
So distorted, like so insanely distorted. The guitar sound and the bass is just sounds like a demon growling.
You're selling me on this, man. If you try not to, then
it's fun. It's not. It's interesting. There are some like there are moments in some of those later things where you're like, oh man, that riff is kicking. And then you're like, what is this song about?
Luckily, I don't care about lyrics at all.
Lyrics don't matter.
Lyrics don't matter at all to me.
Get them out of here. Don't even need them.
Excited. All right, let's get out of here because I'm really hot.
Okay.
So.
Sweating up my chairs.
I'm starting to.
You're starting to leave a mark.
No, I was gonna say I'm starting to speak gibberish. It gets so hot in here. Got the lights on and stuff.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Buy more stuff.